Jump in pretty soon. I have the beverage in hand as prescribed, and as you can see, once again they've done a fabulous job of writing my name. Apparently my name today is Dough. So apparently I gotta go on a bit of a diet because the chick behind the counter thinks I'm a bit doughy. Can you believe that? Dough. I've had some great names over the years. Dough. I actually take pictures of these because it's so funny. Well, could we take your name? Why? You're gonna get it wrong anyway. But I just tell them, and then they just write whatever they write. So this is the might be the Dough Baron Leadership Unscripted show. Who knows? Cheers anyway. Hope you've got your beverage in hand and you're ready to go as we jump in. All right, for those who don't know, for all three of you, my name is not Dough. My name is Dov Baron. I'm the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com and also the host of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, which is also on iTunes with the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 listeners. So you can get over there and tune into that show, as well as this show, which of course is Dov Baron Leadership Unscripted. Good to have you here. If you want to find out more about me, simply go over to FullMontyLeadership.com, where you'll discover that I, aside from having the podcast and this show, I also write for Entrepreneur Magazine and a bunch of other outlets, including Thrive Global, Arianna Huffington's outlet, and a bunch of other great outlets. So just check it out. You can Google me. And of course, if you want to find out about some of my e-courses, you can also find out about those right there. And if you would like to take one of the e-courses, because you're a regular on these shows, you can simply type in the comments the word course. And if you put in the word course, then guess what? We're going to give you $50. Yep, $50 off our latest e-course. This one right now, the one I'm referring to, is called Authentic Leadership in Action. Great course, really going to take you in there and take you deep and help you to become an even more authentic leader. Not just in your mind, but in action. All right, diving right in. Are you ready? Let's get naughty. As many of you know, as many of my fans and followers and such know, this face that you're looking at is not the face that I naturally grew into. It is a face that was actually reconstructed from the one that I had. What do I mean by that? Well, in case you don't know, in June 1990, something very major happened that meant that I needed reconstructive surgeries. And for those who are not familiar, back at that time, I was at the top of my game. I felt like I was at the top of my game, let's put it that way. 1990, I had already been speaking for 6 years. I'd traveled, I'd spoken in most major cities of Australia. I'd spoken in the US, in Canada, so I was just doing great, and I really felt like I was at the top of my game and everything was going really great. And I came back pretty exhausted from a couple of tours, and the person who was in charge of my scheduling had booked me 4 days off to go take some time off, and I was sort of forced, if you will, to go up to a place by Whistler. You know, some of you are familiar with Whistler. It was where the Winter Olympics were held in 2010. To go to Whistler and take a few days off R&R. So we went up there, my buddy and I, and stayed the night, and the next morning we got up and it was a glorious June 20th sunny day. It'd been a really wet spring, but it was sunny, it was beautiful. And we went out and we hung out by the lake and we took it all in. It was gorgeous. And in the afternoon, the later afternoon, we decided that we would go for a hike, and we went to a place called Brandywine Falls. Now, some of you may have seen on some of my other social media imagery, in fact it's actually up on the website right now, you'll see a picture of me standing looking at the top of Brandywine Falls with it behind me, and it's this gorgeous glacial falls that sort of twists and winds off the top of the glacier down to plummet off the edge of a cliff for about 200 feet. It is absolutely stunning. If you get a chance to go there, I highly recommend it. I just don't recommend the rest of it. And that is that we decided to hike down to the bottom. Now, there is no official hiking trail, certainly not today, it's all been fenced off, but back then there was none anyway. But we hiked down, it was about 45 minutes, we got to the bottom, and then we saw this magnificent waterfall, and there's literally for probably 1,000 feet away, there's this immense spray that comes off from the water plummeting off the top of the cliff at, you know, like I said, 200 feet. And so it's coming off a spray of like 70 miles an hour, and it's just amazing. It's invigorating. And I challenged my buddy to go behind the waterfall because, well, I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie, to say the least. And so we hiked behind there. We weren't really dressed for it, but we climbed across these wet rocks, across the moss, fighting the spray to get to it. And we finally get to this place, and we're standing behind the waterfall, just standing right there behind the waterfall with the spray coming on us. And you can imagine that, just standing with your back against the wall, and this sheet of like tons and tons and tons and tons of water coming down in front of us, just. And it was so incredibly invigorating, but with such a short space, it literally sucks the breath right out of your lungs. And when we left that space, when we sort of came out on the other side, I felt totally invigorated. I've often said that I felt like somebody had tattooed a big S on my chest, like I felt like Superman, like I could do anything. And I was invigorated, I was energized, I just was like, yeah. And I came out and I said to my mate, let's not hike back. And he's like, well, what else is there? And I go, let's free climb. Now, for those of people who don't know, mountain climbing can seem dangerous, but you have a lot of safety gear. You have your ropes, you have your hooks, you have your safety lines, and you usually have a partner. And free climbing, that's a little more crazy, because then you don't have those things. You don't have the ropes, but you do have you have good chalk on your hands for grip, and you have the right shoes on, and you have the right clothing on. Well, it gets a little more insane when you're trying to do that very same thing, but without any chalk, without any right clothing, and with the wrong shoes on, and you're soaking wet, which is what we were. And we began to climb, and at about 120 feet, I reached for this rock that dislodged a bigger rock, and that second rock hit me in the face, and bam, sent me hurtling down about 12 stories. And I just imagine being in the top of a building at 12 stories up over the edge of the balcony. That's where I fell from. Bam! Smashed to pieces on the bottom. Crushed up wide open. The bones of my face were completely shattered. Both cheekbones gone, nose gone, jaw into 5 separate pieces, eye sockets dropped. I mean, it was a mess. And as you can imagine, when I woke up, I was in excruciating pain, and I literally felt like my head was underwater because I could hear all this fluid. And it wasn't until I tasted that rusty metal taste in my mouth that I realized that what I was actually tasting was blood. I was just filled with blood, soaked in it. I can tell you a lot more about the gruesome details of that, and there are, believe me, many, many gruesome details. As I've said, I've had somewhere between 10 and 12 reconstructive surgeries. They made a mess of it the first time. Sewed wires into my face, crossed the roof of my mouth, put my jaw back wrong, left my nose all twisted, couldn't breathe. I mean, it was just, it's a whole, as they say in Yiddish, a whole ganze McGilly. It was a big mess. But one of the things about it was that I, as some of you know, I was born in Northern England, and although I left there more than 40 years ago, I grew up in an environment that was pretty tough and pretty rough. And although I don't think I was a particularly tough and rough guy, I certainly learned to portray that image in order to feel safe, in order to feel like I was okay. Because I'll be honest with you, I never felt like I belonged in that environment whatsoever. I never felt like anybody really got who I was or what it was that I was about. But I knew how to step into the role. And so after I fell, during the recovery, for the first 9 months, I mean, after about 5 months, I kind of looked okay for anybody who didn't know me. I was like, if you didn't know me, I was fine. I just looked okay. I lost 50 pounds in 3 weeks, to give you a clue. So even if you hadn't had reconstructive surgery, you lose 50 pounds in 3 weeks, you're going to be pretty unrecognizable even to people who know you, right? But I was also at this reconstructive surgery. But again, if you didn't know me, I looked fine. And so the people who did know me would constantly ask me, how you doing? Are you okay? And I would always answer with, I'm great, I'm coming back. I had this attitude that I was a leader, that I was from the ghetto, I was tough, nothing was going to get me down. And then something happened. And it was about 9 months in, which I've often said is a very interesting gestation period. I went out for a night out with my mate, actually the same guy who had been with me the day I fell. And we'd gone for a couple of drinks, and he'd taken me out. And I came home, and I think probably for the first time in a long time, I came home in a pretty good mood. I hadn't been drinking a lot or anything like that. I just was in a good mood. I felt like maybe I had a little bit of hope. And I walked in through the back door, which was the entrance to the house, which entranced me right into the kitchen. And I flicked on the light, and as I flicked on the light, there was garbage everywhere. Everywhere. And the place smelled so bad. And I was freaking furious. I was so pissed off. You see, when I had fallen, when I had originally fell off the mountain, my ex-girlfriend had bought me a cat to keep me company because I didn't want her to keep me company. So she bought me this cat, and it was an adopted cat, meaning it came from the SPCA, and it was pre-named. And interestingly enough, the cat's name was Mr. Tuffy. Tuffy. The cat was Tuffy. But I sort of tweaked that name and called him Mr. Tough. That was the name I gave him, Mr. Tough. Very apropos for how I was behaving, Mr. Tough. So I came in and there's garbage everywhere, and I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off at Mr. Tough. I'm pissed off at, there's garbage everywhere and it's a big mess. And I walk into the living room, and I'm looking for this cat because I'm pissed off. I want to scream at this cat. And I walk into the living room, and the cat is right there. The cat is on the couch. And I go up, with my hand to sort of push it off the couch and start screaming at it. But for some reason, as I pick my hand up to push it off the couch, I touch the cat very gently. And the cat is cold. The cat is stone cold. And I stopped. And I picked the cat up, put the cat in my arms, and the cat was dead. I didn't like this cat. I hated this cat. I often complained about the cat. I didn't want the cat. The cat would keep me up at night with its, because it was a Siamese cat, with its wow. It would do these noises and drive me nuts at 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't like this cat, and here I was holding this cat, weeping, not crying, weeping, sobbing like a baby. And I found myself on the floor in the fetal position, just bawling my eyes out and realizing at some point, something tweaked, this isn't about the cat. It was at that moment that I realized the facade. It was at that moment that I realized that I'd been playing Mr. Tough, but I hadn't really been in touch with what was really going on with me. I hadn't really felt the grief of what I'd experienced. I hadn't let myself fully be in the place of feeling the depth of the grief, of what it took. And so, in that moment, collapsing into that, that was the awakening. That was the beginning of realizing that what I really needed to do was to find my purpose. You see, there was three paths in front of me, metaphorically speaking, and one was the path to go back and do what I'd done before, which is what I told everybody I was going to do. I'm coming back, baby. But I couldn't do that. The second path was to remain a victim, and God, that was seductive. Which was just to, well, this happened to me, and that's why I couldn't do it anymore, and that's why I packed it in, and that's why I quit. I had a great victim story, and it was very seductive. But the third option was to go look for my purpose. But here's the thing about it. It took a cat that I didn't like dying for me to get that I had to find my purpose. It took a cat I didn't like. I find people all the time looking for their purpose. We work with companies, I work with individuals. And I even have a special coaching package for people who want to find their purpose and help them with their purpose. And I can do that because we can't usually do it on our own. It's very difficult to do on your own without major trauma, and even then most people don't find it. But I help these individuals, and it's fascinating to me that underneath it all is this deep desire to find purpose, the deep desire to know, why am I here? That question that burns inside of us, why am I here? What does it all matter? What is it all about? And it's that burns inside of us. And it took a cat that I didn't like to help me find mine, to at least open that door, to catalyze inside. What will it take you? What will it take you for you to learn that leadership is not about being tough, Mr. Tough? It's not about never going down. It's not about never being wrong. It's not about being weak or strong. But the leadership, real leadership, comes from knowing your purpose and then bringing that to the world. You see, here's what I believe. I believe you were born whole. I believe you were born whole and complete, and there was nothing missing. But then life happened to you, as it does to us all, and you spent the rest of your life feeling like something was missing. You know, there was research done recently that was 69% of leaders who are put into top leadership positions feel like a fraud. You know, you look at those people and you're in great admiration of them, and because they're at the level you're not at. Even if you're a CEO, there's those CEOs that you look up at. Maybe you look at the Elon Musks, and maybe you look at the Richard Bransons, and maybe you look at whoever it is, and you think, wow, I wish I was that guy. But there's always somebody looking up at you too. And we look up at the next people because we feel like there's something wrong with us. There's something missing inside of us. But the truth of the matter is, and this is what I actually got my head cracked open to discover, is there's nothing missing. You're already whole. You're already complete. Everything you need is already in here. It's already in your heart. It's already there. It's already in your mind. It's already in your soul. But what happened was all this shit got piled on top of it that had you stop believing that you were already whole and complete. And so you spent the rest of your life feeling like a fraud, feeling like something's missing, feeling like everybody else got the memo and you didn't get it. But your purpose is what brings you home. It brings you home to that wholeness. It's the thing that brings you back to feeling complete. And it's interesting that however you lost that wholeness, and you didn't lose the wholeness, but however you lost touch with that wholeness, however you lost the truth, the sense of knowing that you were whole and complete, that is actually part of your purpose. It's finding it again. It's the path to finding again is part of your purpose. And it's also part of helping other people find their wholeness. See, here's what I believe. I said I believe that you're born whole and complete. But I also believe this, that ties along with that, is that you go into business, whatever it is, if you're a coach, if you're a CEO, if you're an artist, if you're a dancer, if you are an entrepreneur, whatever it is you are, you go into business, you go into leadership as a means, as a vehicle to reconcile your own soul, to bring home the fractured, disenfranchised parts of yourself and bring yourself back to that wholeness. That's why you went into it. I know you went into it because you thought it was going to make you money. Of course. That's what business is. You make money. We live in a world where you need money. Nobody's condemning that at all. But the deeper piece is that you went into whatever it is you went in to do to bring yourself back to wholeness. so that you can serve that wholeness to the world. Because here's the deal, you are a gift to this world. You are actually a gift to this world. And when you come back to that wholeness, you'll know that. When you really come back to that wholeness, not only will you know that you're a gift to the world, but you'll become a gift to the world. You'll be able to share what it is that you came here to do. So, this is Dov Baron, FullMontyLeadership.com, and that was the lesson on leadership and purpose that I got from a cat I didn't like by the name of Mr. Tough. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. I'm interested to hear what you have to say and discover about your purpose and finding your purpose and how to find your purpose and have you found your purpose? Are you looking for your purpose? And of course, if you would like to find out more about me, you can do so at FullMontyLeadership.com. There you can also reach out to me, and my private email, I'll give it to you. I don't hide anything, is Dov, D-O-V, at dovbaron.com, so D-O-V at D-O-V-B-A-R-O-N.com. If you want to find out about my e-courses, put the word course in the bottom. And if you want to find out about my show on iTunes, you can go to iTunes and find it, Dov Baron Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you, and please subscribe. We appreciate that. And if you're watching this on Facebook or another medium, then of course, go over to YouTube and subscribe. We love that when you do that. Remember to share the show with everybody you know. I hope that you've gotten a ton out of this, and I just want to say, very simply, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about all the signs posted that you're blind to that are directing you back to your purpose. Till next time, this is Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership. Please feel free to share the show with everybody you know. Leave me your comments and feedback, even if you're watching this on Encore, because I will respond. Till next time, Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership. Check out the e-course. You can go on to Dov Baron Leadership on Facebook, and you'll find it right there too. All right, till next time, this is Dov Baron, and I am out.